On November 14th, Wednesday Women hosted an online session to explore the career advice that more than 130 executive women had given as part of being featured in our weekly Wednesday Women series. These women were asked the question, if you were to give a piece of advice to someone earlier in their career, what would it be? We then had the incredible Leslie Pagel, who is a customer success expert, dive into that data to look for the common themes and the key data points that we could pull out and share with you. Here on this recording, you'll see the live presentation of that data from Leslie and Wednesday Women. Let's get started. I'm really excited to introduce you to the incredible Leslie Pagel. She is here because she reached out to the Wednesday Women team to say, I think these insights are fascinating. I see a lot of themes that have come out in the aggregate answers of more than 130 executive women, and I'd love to dive in and do something with it. So, Leslie, could you share what first caught your eye about this data and a little bit more about how you decided to dive in and create a set of insights that we're going to talk about today?
Absolutely. First, though, I have to thank you, Melissa and Leslie, for starting Wednesday Women, for all that you do. I want to thank all the sponsors of Wednesday Women, all of your supporters, and all of the women leaders that you have featured. I am an avid, every Wednesday, I'm going to read what they share. And each suggestion, advice that they share is valuable in and of itself. But this opportunity to look collectively across 130 women leaders and really understand what are the themes that they're sharing has been an impactful experience for me. So thank you all for doing that for this community. When we looked at the feedback, what advice would you give to someone earlier in their career? There were 5 key themes that emerged across the women leaders, 3 of which were so common that they were represented in almost every single piece of advice, a little bit over 90. And those 3 top themes, the first was over 50% of the women leaders talked about having the right mindset. It's about mindset.
Yep.
The second theme was really this sense of self or you do you type thing. Almost 50% shared that. That's about self-advocacy, self-awareness. And then the third most common was this idea of keep learning. It's a journey, continuous learning mindset. So those are the top 3 that, like I said, were mentioned almost in every instance. The other 2 are equally important, but not as common. The fourth one there, as you can see here, 12% talked about building your network of allies, of supporters, of people that support you. And then the 5th was be willing to take risks in your career. So those are the high level themes that emerged across these women leaders.
Yeah, let's start right at the top. What the plan is for today is to hear a little bit from Leslie more on each of the top 3 themes that we heard and what she discovered, a little bit what she learned, and a little bit of her own personal story. We're also going to ask a question for each section in the chat. So if those of you who are on the call want to answer that question as we go section by section, we can hear from a little bit broader range of everybody's perspectives that are on the call. We will try to do a little Q&A. I'm going to hold it till the end just because it's a pretty tight timeline for our session today. So Leslie, as you noted, the most common topic that kept coming up was mindset. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you saw in this area and or your own experience around what you found?
Yes, yes. Well, first, I will start off by saying that I love that the most common topic was mindset, because really, when you take a step back and you think about all of this, it really does come down to how are we thinking? What is our mindset? How is our mindset set around our professional development? And it's this concept of our thoughts become our beliefs become our actions become our outcomes. And so this most common mention of mindset is so important, not just early in our career, but really throughout our career. When we look at the women leaders that talked about focusing on your mindset, there were three very common elements that were included. The first one is this concept that our professional career is a marathon. And I love this quote from Alex Rivera, who is the co-founder of Verbatim. She says, "This is a marathon, not a sprint. You don't need to have all the answers. Just make the best decision for yourself with what you have and keep going." And there were several other mentions with that same theme. It is about the long game, not the short game. Related to that, it was also about being willing to take lateral moves as opposed to just progressing up. Sometimes we need to move sideways in order to go upwards as well. So that's another theme under this marathon category. The second under mindset is really being open to opportunity. And there was one piece of advice from Gina Biachini, who is the CEO of Mighty Networks. She says, be open to try new things and work with people who challenge you. There's a lot to learn. So this is really it's about saying yes to opportunity, being open to things that might come your way and not closed off to it. And then the third mindset is really about being curious. Melissa Rosenthal, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Insight Timer, talks about this in terms of approach every role with a fresh perspective and a touch of naivete. She says, it might sound counterintuitive, but it's this sense of boundless optimism and curiosity that allows you to bring a fresh perspective to the table. So those are the most common kind of elements under this theme of mindset that were mentioned. And Melissa, you asked for a personal story as well. And, one of the things that during my life, when I was looking at this data, I was in a situation where I had just lost my position as chief evangelist, had just been eliminated. So I was unemployed. And I remember going on a walk and thinking about the insights that were emerging from these women leaders and this topic of mindset. And some of you might be in that position where you've lost your job before, and others can just imagine how your mind, your subconscious mind, might not be saying the most nicest things to yourself. And I remember going on a walk just thinking about what I was learning through all of these women leaders and thinking, you know what? I have control over my mindset. I can control how I want to view the situation that I'm in. And so it was in that kind of moment where I started to be really intentional in shaping the narrative that I wanted to have about the mindset of the situation that I was in. And I'll share with you, it's not always easy. Sometimes your subconscious mind plays tricks on you. But the more that I've been really intentional and trying to pay attention to those stories, those thoughts, and redirect them to ones that I believe in, the easier it's getting, and more it's becoming more the norm in my mindset.
We've seen a couple folks are dropping things in chat, but I'd love to encourage everyone. Mindset is, there's a lot of different approaches to it. And as you said, Leslie, it's so much around those moments where you have to say, like, I need to get back in control of it. I need to take it back. So any tips, any things that have worked for you, anybody who's on the call, feel free to put in. I'll try to aggregate those and send them out after the fact as well. So we kind of have a little list of tips. I've seen a couple of great ones dropping in here, and the importance of mindset leads us to really the second biggest thing that people called out, and to a really great question earlier. Remember, we just asked these women to say one piece of advice. So off the top of their heads, they said one, and then Leslie looked at where that fell. So I'm guessing every one of the women would probably say all of these topics, but the second most commonly brought up or suggested was around you do you and share it. So we're going to call this the self advocacy bucket. Leslie, tell us what you found when it came to these quotations or the advice that was given for self advocacy, because it certainly builds on top of mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, as I've thought about this bucket and, why might this be coming up? One of the things that I've reflected on is that, sometimes we can get in this mindset, coming off of the mindset topic, but in this mindset of, I'm just going to let my work speak for itself. And I suspect these women leaders have recognized that that doesn't always work. In business, there's a lot of personalities. There's big personalities. There can be ego. There can be fear that drives behaviors. And so this recognition of understanding who I am. So this has kind of two pieces. It's understanding your strengths, your passions, what lights you up, what you're good about, and then also advocating for yourself, using your voice to speak up, to keep things, to make people aware of the work that you're doing. So when you think about the big personalities in business, sometimes our work just does not speak for itself. And we need to speak for ourselves. And I sense that's a little bit of what might be behind the reason that this category exists. Natasha Durkins, who is the VP of Federal Aviation Administration, says, I love this quote because there's like a visual image here. Whether you're invited or you're pulling up a folding chair, you're in the room because you need to be heard. Push past any discomfort. I mean, you can kind of feel the discomfort of pulling up that folding chair, but push past any discomfort and use your voice. And that's really what this category is all about. Now, I will mention that I have explored all of these topics kind of outside of just the advice from these women leaders. And there's research from McKinsey. McKinsey actually puts out an annual study called Women in the Workplace. And their 2024 research is out. And it shows that we still have work to do, particularly with younger women. So younger women coming into, well, I shouldn't say younger women, but women who are looking to be hired for entry-level positions are less likely to be hired for entry-level positions. And women are also less likely to be hired for their first manager position. So what does that have to do with advocacy? Well, it's a little bit about getting your work recognized, talking about the things that we're good at, being willing to apply for that job that we might not check off all the boxes, but we're definitely qualified for the position. In the blog, we've done blogs for several of these topics on the Wednesday Women website. And in the blog on this topic, there's a link to a Forbes article that talks about how to go about self-advocacy because, let's face it, there's still unconscious bias. And the way that we advocate for ourselves to be more successful, we need to leverage the qualities of being a female. So in that article, it talks about really focusing on being approachable, leveraging our social skills to make connections, and being intentional with how we go about advocating for ourselves. So I'd recommend checking that out as well.
Before I bring us on to kind of the third topic, and I know we're flying through a lot of this, so feel free to keep engaging in chat. We'll do some follow-ups afterward, a little Q&A. But before I go into the third one, I wanted to kind of just open it up a little bit because becoming an advocate for yourself and doing that really actually is going to lead us into something else that you can learn. So does anyone else have any tips for how they've gotten better at this? It doesn't come easy to most people, I would say. So I know there's some coming up in the chat right now, but if anybody even wants to speak out for anything they've done, courses they've taken, articles they've read, epiphanies they've had, feel free to speak up or drop those in the chat. But
I'll
really,
share something,
go ahead,
Melissa,
Steph.
that I put in the chat, and it's something that I've done with my staff, and I've also done this with Pavilion's OTB community, although it's a reminder it's time to do it again, is a unique abilities exercise. So we as women specifically think that these things that we do just come natural to everybody. They don't. Being, kind of an organizer of chaos, for example, for a lot of women does not come naturally to a lot of folks. So I asked them to go and seek out feedback from 6 personal connections and 6 professional connections. Ask them what they feel your unique abilities, superpowers, and strengths are. Compile those into a spreadsheet, a Word doc, what have you. You will find almost always that the responses are very similar from everyone. And you likely look at those and go, oh, I just thought that came naturally to everybody. I didn't think that was a superpower. You can then take that and put that in your outbound messaging. And other folks will look at that and go, oh, I definitely need someone like that in my org.
Mhm.
So it's a huge ego booster when you're feeling like, oof, I've had a week or two where I'm not getting, the inbound activity. I'm not getting asked to interview for jobs. And you do this, do it on do it over the weekend, have those responses on Monday. Your whole week's activity level will increase because your mindset is where it needs to be.
That is a wonderful tactical tip, Steph. I think every one of us can do that today. It's also, it definitely helps, especially with some of it within mindset. A couple of folks mentioned the job search. It's a great thing to do during job search because it gives you that burst of feel good, a little bit of feel good, right? The oxytocin of, wow, I am awesome. And people recognize that. It's such great advice. I also love Michelle mentioned a really cool tip that just popped up about asking someone else to help you advocate as well. Like it doesn't always just have to be on your own plate, but asking others who maybe are in different positions to do so. I think obviously that's what Wednesday Women was founded on too, was the idea that we can shout out how awesome everyone is. So looking for other groups or people who can do that on your behalf. I better get back to Leslie because we have one more topic. So the final kind of bucket, and I can scooch through, I think we had the slides here. This was the you do you one. The final one was really around learning. So if you don't mind, Leslie, do one more touch on us for what you saw in this bucket of keep learning. It feels really big. It feels like a no-brainer, but there were specific takeaways from it. What did you find?
Yes. So there are 3 categories underneath this broader theme. The first are actions that you could take. So actions such as asking for help, actions such as spending money, investing in our own professional development by getting a coach or by going to a course. Topics to learn about was the second theme. So this was things like focus on learning about business acumen or focus on learning about your industry, your competitors, your company, the people within your company. So that's that kind of learn about theme. And then the third is where you can go to learn from. And it's the things that you probably all have thought of: webinars, LinkedIn, casts, books, industry reports, influencers, those types of things as well.
And in terms of this theme, have you, Leslie, made any changes, after you kind of saw this and you went, oh, I got to keep learning? Have you personally made any changes based on this theme for yourself? Would love to hear what
I,
others have in the chat too. How are we all fitting learning into our day?
Yeah, I'm naturally kind of looking to learn. But one change that I've made from this is I've made it a part of my morning routine to read for at least 5 minutes. I mean, I don't always get through very much, but some mornings it's a little bit longer, but every morning I'm spending 5 minutes reading about something that I'm interested in learning about.
Oh, let's see. Oh, I am unmuted. I was worried I was muted, but I'm also seeing a lot about podcasts at the right time. One thing that I was going to throw in too is I found that I was actually getting overwhelmed by all the stuff that there's out there to learn from. So I actually did an exercise where I reduced and I basically picked 3 newsletters that I really got information out of and tried to just read those for a while. I think it's probably the same with podcasts is you want to keep learning, but if you're learning everything, you're learning nothing, right? So putting a focus to the learning can really help. Anything else coming up in chat? Let me check. Oh, Casey's got a request for favorite newsletters. So I'll put mine in there, but if anyone else has newsletters that they absolutely love, make sure they're in there. As we get a little bit close to the end of time, I'm trying to keep us moving. What advice, out of all the advice you read, Leslie, you saw these 130 plus incredible pieces of standalone advice. Which ones had the most kind of impact on you, and or which ones would you yourself kind of pass on to someone who's earlier in their career? So if someone's really trying to learn from these women, what struck you as
Yeah.
the ones to especially pay attention? Any favorites, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Well, I will tell you, I've really been trying to embody all of these. I have really been exploring them all. But there is one quote that came from Hillary Headley. She's the executive vice president at Insight Partner. And I could not get her comment out of my mind. And her advice is, when you are negotiating for your salary, get outside of your own head in relationship with money. Make it about what that means to other women. What I mean by that is, if you, all capital letters, make more, they, all capital letters, make more. And I am a mother of two adult women. And when I took it out of self and put it on them, it makes negotiation, it puts it in a different category for me. And so from my perspective, Melissa, personally, that is this concept of advocating for ourselves and doing it not necessarily even for ourselves, but to role model the behaviors so that others can come alongside us.
So powerful. Question for the audience now. We've got 5 minutes left. Please drop any questions or thought starters in there. I'm happy to kind of build a little bit of discussion into what has been a deep dive into the insights. But really, a question for the audience that I would put out is, how can we all continue to learn from these amazing women? I think we can. I love what you do every week, Leslie, which is to actually read them and see what they say. But how can we even build more or create more small ripples that let us keep learning from what others have gone through? How do we think we should keep learning from these women? How can we make their inspiration part of what we're doing?
Hey, I mean, I really think it's building upon what you've started with Wednesday Women and increasing the exposure to it. I sense that, it's also including conversation, real life conversation. And yeah, I don't know. I'll have to think more on that, but building on what you've started.
Yeah. Well, then I'll leave the audience with one question. Of those three themes, of the three themes that we heard today, actually, let's go back and give you all five themes. And these were the five top themes. There were some other amazing quotes in here. Which one for each of us on the call personally, we can drop it in chat. Which one do each of us personally think we're going to spend, let's say, the next month, maybe trying a little bit more and pushing ourselves in a certain area? For me, I will push myself specifically on the you do you and share it, because this is always a struggle for me. And I'm still trying to find out what my voice sounds like publicly. Jenny's going to stick on right mindset. I love it. It's the basis of all things. Anyone else want to kind of commit to really going hard on one of these through the end of the year? Leslie's going to keep learning. Leslie, tell us what you're going to learn about. And mindset, yes, is really hard over the holidays. It's a good point, Steph. Things start being a little more chaotic, a little more flustered. There's more emotion. Mindset is a great way to focus. Well, I want to keep everybody on track today because we are all busy women. And I say women, but men are welcome to this conversation as well. We all want to be learning from these incredible executive women. You can obviously find out more at WednesdayWomen.org and give us a follow. Leslie is going to be starting a new role soon, which is very exciting. She will have lots of insights from that. Leslie Greenwood and I will be amplifying women on into 2025. We have a lot of exciting initiatives coming in the year ahead. And specifically, if you found value in the insights that these women have shared, I'd really encourage us all to pass it on to someone who is, give the things that we've learned to someone who's coming up in their career and make them feel like this is the norm. This is perfectly normal and they're surrounded by incredible women. So yes, pay it forward, as Shayna said in the chat. A huge thank you again to Leslie today. really excited to have your energy in the work that we've done and the quotes that we've gotten from these women. If anybody else is interested in, taking a small role in all the things we're doing at Wednesday Women, please reach out to us. But a big thanks to Leslie, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us today.